And welcome back to another episode of Exposing Ourselves. I am Travis, and I'm here with my compadre,
Matt Runquist.
Hey, Matt, I didn't say my last name, and that is my bad. This is Exposing Ourselves, the podcast where we expose each other to new things. Matt is our music aficionado, and he is going to expose me to his favorite bands and, I guess, music? Maybe different kinds of music, I don't know. And I am our movie buff, and I'm going to be exposing Matt to my favorite movies. How you doing, Matt?
That sounds amazing. I am doing very well. Having a good beginning to the year. It is
we
the
are
1st
recording
of
this
January.
on New Year's Day. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
just
so
like a
that's
U2
wonderful.
song.
I posted my manifesto, I guess, on Facebook a couple of days ago, maybe the day before New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve.
Is now when you
And-
call it a manifesto, is it a statement of intent? Is it intended to manifest things?
Aha. Yes, that is kind of the. That seems to be what everybody said in the comments was that, oh, you're manifesting all this positive productivity, and I think that I agree in that way. The term manifesto is completely apropos, right?
Absolutely. I think it's, I've never been a New Year's resolution person, but I do think it's a good idea to maintain a global sense of what you want out of your life. I read a book this year called Being Human, and it's about Being Mortal, not Being Human. Being Human is a fantastic movie.
Oh, well, that doesn't apply to me then.
That doesn't apply to you. Yeah, Being Mortal is a book by a doctor whose father is dying, and through that lens, it explores like how we die in the modern world and how we die here in the United States and how best to die in terms of how do we live the last few years, months, days of our lives. And a lot of what he talks about in that book really resonated for me as these are things that we can focus on now, even when we hopefully have lots of years left ahead of us in terms of, because the things that were important to people when they were close to death were, what's important to me? How do I live a life that allows me to prioritize those important things? And I thought that was really, really cool because it kind of helped me get back into music. It helped me focus on where I wanted to spend my time. It helped me stop playing as many games on my phone because I realized I was wasting time, not because I wanted to be productive, right? But because I wanted to be creative. I wanted to live a better life for me and one that helped me feel better. Mm-hmm. So it was funny. I feel like reading this book about death really helped out my life. Weird.
That's fascinating, and it makes sense. Like when it does take a little bit of perspective sometimes for us to make ourselves see our lives kind of from another angle, right? And so when we're in the middle of our lives, spending a couple hours a day fiddling around with Candy Crush or whatever game we're playing that has literally no point other than to pass the time, in the moment, it's hard to see that for what it is, which is completely wasted potential. And when you see that moment from the outside, someone in their last days or someone talking about, someone who is dying, and you're seeing that, well, if you're on your deathbed, you might conceivably look back at those hours spent fiddling around your phone and wishing you had spent it differently. So, but that is similar to what I'm trying to do with this year. And I think I have felt a bit in limbo this last year because I spent so much of it injured. I had broken ribs from my bike accident. I had another bike accident last year when I moved back to LA and had planned to really hit the ground running a year and a half ago. I immediately got into a car accident, which kind of laid me up for about 7 months. And so now, finally going into this year, I have just received word that I'm not going back to Japan, and I have I'm not injured in any significant way, and I finished another semester of school, and I've decided not to do school again. So I feel freer in a way where I can kind of lay down what I want to do. And so I'm excited. I think there's a lot that I want to do, and I am about to sign a new publishing contract for 2 book series, which is exciting.
That's extremely exciting.
Yeah, so I already published the vampire book, right, and the Decimus, the Vampire's Curse, and that is going to be a series. So I have to write book 2 of that this year, and but I have this other book series this book that I wrote called it's a middle grade book called The Tiger and the Prince, which was about it was me. And this does actually tie in a little bit to our episode. It was me writing a relationship, like a kind of a metaphor for a relationship to kind of help get that relationship out of me. And there's a line in one of these songs that I noted where the person says, "I'm writing you out of my bones" or something like that.
Yeah.
And that I hit on that. But that's what I was doing exactly. And so that they want that book, but they want it to be a series. So of course I have plenty of relationships to make allegories of. And then I also wrote a novelization of the Inspector Chronicles movie. So that was, Inspector Spacetime, but not legally. And so I wrote it as a novelization, wanting to just get the story out into the world, and in a way that you can't with a movie that requires so many moving parts. But a book, you can just write it and publish it, and it'll be out there. And so, and then my thought process is maybe someone will buy the book, but then also, if I make the book, then the movie will be based on existing IP, and it will be something that maybe people will buy. Yeah. Or maybe other people will want to make, I guess is the point. So, yeah.
Well, that's really, really exciting stuff. Well, it sounds like a good segue. Should we approach the music right away, or should we do movie first?
Yeah, let's do music.
Let's do music.
Because it's interesting. So as a recap, we have a playlist on YouTube Music, and I was going to ask you if you could, the way you labeled them is Exposing Ourselves Podcast, and you do an episode number. Can you add what the theme of the playlist is? Whether it's, this week it's The Decemberists. But just add that at the end. So because it's hard for me, I don't recognize album titles, and so I actually forgot what episode we were doing, and so I was like, which one of these playlists is the one I'm supposed to be listening to? But yeah, so it was The Decemberists.
Yeah, The Decemberists.
And later on in the episode, by the way, before we'll be getting into the movie, which was Get Out by Jordan Peele. So, but first music.
The Decemberists. So I won't go into the long explanation this time. You can catch that at the end of episode 3 if you'd like. But the Decemberists is a band from the Pacific Northwest that uses a wide array of instrumentation and a really strong storytelling sense to compose some pretty kind of off-kilter rock music, I would say. Mm-hmm. I put together a playlist of things from their first 4 albums because those are the ones that I'm most familiar with, starting with Castaways and Cutouts, which was released on a very, very tiny label and then later re-released on K Records, which you don't know this, but it's a pretty big indie label, pretty important indie label. And the rest of the albums, Her Majesty, The Decemberists, Picaresque, and The Crane Wife all came out, I believe, on K. So, all right. So, tell me, what did you think?
Not picaresque, huh?
It could be picaresque. I don't know. I've only ever seen it spelled. So, I'm perfectly happy to get my pronunciation corrected on this.
I feel like picaresque is similar to picturesque, right?
Sure.
I don't know what the word seems to have no meaning anyway, but as a similar word. Why I want to know before I tell you my my thoughts, why you chose this for me. And part of that, as I was thinking, it might be interesting for, I don't want to do this, but I thought for a second it might be interesting for us to predict the others' ratings.
Well, I don't know if you like it. I think you will, or I think you did, but I will say that this is theater kid music in every sense of the word, right? This is like, dressing up in funny clothes and pretending to be other people for 4 minutes or 6 minutes or 8 minutes. And it's very, like, the lyrics are incredibly important, right? There's very few, like, instrumental breakdowns in the Decemberists. It's about the stories, and it's theater kid music, and you're a theater kid, so
I am that 100%. Yep. So here's my take. I didn't like it at first.
Okay.
It is very indie film, like the soundtrack to Juno, or Garden State, maybe not Garden State, but like any of those, like,
I called it Wes
film.
Anderson.
Very Wes Anderson-y, like that dun 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 dun, and I'm like, and that was, I don't love that, to be honest. And for this one, I kind of got used to it, but I think the thing that really kept me from loving it, or from being more into it at least, is the guy's voice, which I found very annoying to listen to.
Yeah, it's a little I don't want to say nasal, but it's a little thin.
It reminded me of like a comedy band, like They Might Be Giants or something.
Sure.
It has a very similar sound with their lead singer, but they're funny. They're supposed to be quirky funny, and this guy is supposed to be like quirky, serious, like poetry.
Yeah.
And it just, what's funny is that when I was listening to it, as has happened every time, when I get to the end of the playlist, Apple Music or YouTube Music just chooses another song for me to listen to, and I don't remember what it was, but I liked it a lot better. And I remember it was because the guy's voice was so much more interesting to listen to and less annoying.
All right.
And so then the second time through, which took me a while to make myself listen to it a second time, to be honest. I was listening. First of all, I liked it a little bit more, so it did grow on me. As we talked about in a previous episode, that happens when you kind of let a piece of music just percolate and simmer a little bit with you. So I did like it a little more the second time, and I think I would listen to it again, because I think part of the guy's voice being annoying is something that I would get used to, and like just that's his style.
Yeah.
So it might be less annoying as I kept listening to it. You cited the poetry of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last week. And you were thinking about, pay attention to the lyrics. And I will say, from my point of view, especially the first two times through, the lyrics felt at once too simple and also too complicated.
Yeah, they're full stories.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, there's not a lot of repetition to latch onto, and they're sometimes really long, convoluted stories, and so there's not necessarily like a hook for most of them. And it's funny, I'm looking now at the list of songs that I chose, and I think I did try to stick a couple of the more like hookier songs towards the beginning. Certainly Song for Mila Goldberg is a really kind of poppy hooky song. 16 Military Wives is it's almost a drinking song.
Yep. I can see that.
But I'll be honest with you. So I'm looking at this playlist now, and the sort of the deep like theater kid songs are towards the back of this playlist, and those are the ones that I'm absolutely like. I like the songs at the beginning of the playlist, but the ones that like Los Angeles, I'm Yours, which I was really hoping you would like, The Soldier in Life, and then the song that you started quoting a lyric from, The Engine Driver, those songs. Oh, and of course, I Was Meant for the Stage, right? Which I really hoped you would latch onto in some way, because I think it's a fantastic, fantastic song, and just speaks to the like sort of simultaneous joy and tragedy of trying to succeed as an actor.
Yeah. So I want to talk to some of the or speak to some of the lyrics. And you're right. I do appreciate the story, actually, of some of these songs, and I like. I don't necessarily hunger for that repetitiveness. That is something that's very popular because human beings love familiarity and that kind of repetitive. Someone did a song once where it was like, sensitive guys like songs that are repetitive. Da 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 da. Sensitive guys like songs that are repetitive. Like they just repeat the line again for the joke. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great. But I feel like, how to describe it? When I was listening to it, I felt like some of the poetry was too, I feel like good poetry should be immediately evocative of an image, right? You shouldn't have to think of it too much. You shouldn't have to break it down and be like, what does this mean? What does it mean when he says we will put cinnamon in our mouths? You know, because that, on the face of it, doesn't mean anything. And it sounds almost like he just wanted a word to rhyme, sort of, with aluminum. There's a line where he says, we make our walls out of aluminum, we fill our mouths with cinnamon. And it's like, those kind of rhyme, but like in a quirky way. And it almost feels like a lot of it was, let's write lyrics that are either quirky, super deep, or alliterative for the sake of being alliterative. And none of it kind of hit me as good imagery, good poetry.
All right.
You know?
So if I was going to diagnose your problem with it, you would say, and this may be a phrase that you're not dialed into the culture enough, doing too much. This is doing too much.
I don't know how that's a subtle phrase to break down. It means what it is, and you're absolutely right. I think that this music is doing too much.
It's very fussy.
The lyrics are doing too much.
Yeah.
But only slightly. Like, I wish that there was kind of a middle ground where they just. It's kind of like, it's funny. My mom is a writer, and she's a beautiful writer, and she loves language, and she will write things that are very wordy, and sometimes she'll use words that are very delicious, and like a linguist loves these words, and I have to pull her back and say, yeah, but when you're reading that, your reader is not going to appreciate that. It's just going to be a thing that stands out. And I think that's almost what these guys are doing, where the lyrics are just a little too much.
Okay. Well, that's certainly fair.
I will though.
I can say.
I will listen to it a third time through.
Oh, he's going to listen to it again. Yeah, I got to admit, I bet if you listen to this a couple more times that there's gonna be a moment when you're like, oh, yeah,
maybe, but there, you know what? I'm a fan of blockbuster movies, and I'm a fan of accessible pop music, stuff, and I do appreciate pop music that is intelligent, but I am good with, kind of just under the skin metaphor,
I was meant for the stage. I was meant for the shouting. Good stuff. I like it.
Yeah. I'm actually, I want to go through the lyrics again, and because again, I listened to it, but I didn't actually just read the lyrics. I would kind of like to read the lyrics separately, and in your defense, you did ask me to do that
I
before.
did definitely ask you to do that, but that's okay.
It's
You've got a
been a
lot of
busy week.
manifesting to do. Yeah, you've got a lot of
I was
manifesting to do.
manifesting the hell out of myself this week. So
Well, that's fantastic. All right, so I think maybe it's time to give it a rating. And it's
man.
okay. You're allowed to give it whatever rating you want. This is a safe space for ratings.
yeah, I am going to give it a what is it what is it when you call when you get a judgment, but it's a temporary judgment.
Oh,
You know.
yeah, I don't know what that's called because
There's a
I've
word
never
for that, like
been charged
like
with
a-
a crime. But
Not a yeah. It's like a when you get a license to do something, but it's a temporary license. It's a provisional. That's
provisional. A provisional
I'm gonna give this
grade.
a provisional rating
Okay.
of 5 out of 10.
Okay.
But if you like, we can revisit it further down the road, and I will give it another chance. I will promise to give it at least a couple more chances.
A couple listens and a read of the lyric sheet.
And for sure a read of the lyrics before I couldn't figure out how to get to the lyrics in the on the website when I wasn't using my phone, because I wanted to do it on the computer, not just on my phone. And I literally, while we were talking here, I just figured it out. So
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I would give the well, actually, this playlist I would probably give an 8. But the Crane Wife, the album, and Her Majesty the Decemberists, I would give both of those albums 9s because I think they're really, really fantastic.
I wish I could know what I wonder if I have my history, my listening history somewhere on I don't know how you can
I've
get
certainly
to that.
never found it.
But
I
would
think it
love
exists,
to,
but
yeah. Oh, here it is, my history. So there's my music from today, and here we go. So Decemberists, I have to find where I was listening to Decemberists. Wow, where are they?
I would like to point
No,
out
there's
that
Ghosts.
you
There's
listened.
Alabama Shakes.
You listened to Decemberists in January.
Oh, you know what it must do? It must, when you listen to something again, it removes it from its old place in your history and moves it to the top.
And
And so, yeah, judging from my list here, I think that what I probably was listening to next was Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh yeah, Death Cab
Might have been
sure,
the next
that
song
makes
that
sense.
played. It might have played No Sunlight by Death Cab for Cutie.
Death Cab,
And,
I think, is actually also on K Records at least for a couple of times. So
Interesting. And
couple albums.
I don't remember what that song sounded like, but I just remember thinking, oh, this song I like this better. So maybe give me a Death Cab playlist at some point.
that's a good point.
I'm certainly
I should
not a
probably
fan
do
of
that.
theirs. I don't know their music very well, so.
Okay.
But yeah, so
There's
all
a
right,
song
8
of
from you.
there. Well, 9 from me for most of their
That
stuff.
I'm sure
Yeah,
was
that's
fascinating radio, by the way.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say about Death Cab is they actually have a song that I feel very conflicted about because I absolutely love the song and I hate the message. And I never know how to feel about it. Yeah. So,
What's the song?
I will follow
I will
you
follow
into the
you
dark.
into the dark.
Yeah.
That's their number one song on YouTube
Yeah.
Music.
It is. It's a really good song. It really is. But the message of the song is basically like, if you die, I'll die too, and we'll go together into the afterlife. It's really terrible.
Oh, interesting. The song that it played for me, that it chose, was No Sunlight, which is not on their top songs, so I'm not sure why it chose that for me.
It must be the most Decemberist-y song.
Maybe, possibly. All right, cool. Well, should we move on to our movie of the day?
Let's do it.
So I assigned Matt. Sorry, I'm so
fine.
stuck on Matthew. I know it's
Matthew's fine. Matthew's
but
fine.
you like Matt, and I
do
like
like
to be
him.
respectful of what people like. And you've always been Matt. Like ever since
There's
I've known
never
you,
been
you've
a
been Matt
time.
Lundquist.
Yeah,
And
there's
it's
never been a
always-
time.
No, and it's only been when you have when I'm being like flowery that I say Matthew, right? But I had a boyfriend who was Matthew for 4 years, and so Matthew got into my head. Speaking of you, by the way, and we don't have to include this if you don't want to, and it probably won't make any difference anyway, but I was talking to someone recently, and they were talking about being from Wisconsin or having family in Wisconsin, and they said, "Oh yeah, we were in Berlin, Wisconsin," and I was like, "Oh, I don't know where that is, but it sounds so familiar. It sounds like I went to Berlin Elementary, but that's not what they're talking about, and there wasn't a Berlin near us." And then it hit me that was your hometown.
Berlin is my hometown. Yeah, not New Berlin. So
right. Yeah. I said Berlin.
No, I know.
And you locals call it Berlin?
Yeah,
not Berlin.
Yeah, not Berlin. And yeah, and actually Berlin Elementary is not a real school. It's called Clay Lamberton. So
no, but my school was Berlin Elementary.
Oh, you're kidding!
Right outside of Wausau. No, I went to Berlin Elementary.
Oh, I didn't know
yeah.
that. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's probably why we weren't named Berlin Elementary.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I'm sure there are many, there's more than one Jefferson Elementary, I'm sure.
I doubt it.
Doubt it.
I'm fairly certain I am the only Clay Lamberton, because Clay Lamberton was like a local school administrator. That was our.
They named your
school.
Elementary school from after a local administrator, not like a president or an astronaut or something.
No. And it's funny
crazy.
when I went to when I briefly lived in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, I went to Perry Tipler Middle School, which was also named after a local person, not a president or anybody cool. It actually threw me off that when I found out that people went to schools that were like MLK Jr. or
William Jefferson
JFK,
Clinton,
or William Jefferson Clinton High School. I was like, what you got? Well, I got Clay Lamberton.
I mean, he's not even like a football player or something.
No,
like
right?
It's a Packer, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, I was gonna pull a famous Packer player out of my butt, and then I realized I can't.
You didn't. You can't name even one.
Well, I can name Barry. No. No.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say Barry White, but that's something different. It's something.
Oh my God! Yes, famous.
Was it
famous?
No, one of those names is correct.
Green Bay Packer Barry White. Yep.
No, one of those names is correct though. Is it Barry or is it White? Was there a famous? He played with Brett Favre.
No. You're thinking of Barry Sanders, who played for the Detroit Lions.
No, I'm not thinking of Barry. I know who Barry Sanders is. I meant there was a linebacker or a big black guy who played for the Packers.
There's a Reggie White. Reggie
White.
Are you thinking of Reggie White?
There I had Reggie White. White. I had the white part right. See, I was not 100% wrong.
Oh man, that was fantastic.
So
the funny part about this is I don't even watch football anymore, anyways. So
yeah,
thankfully
but
you
you're
chose
still in Wisconsin, so you're still steeped in the lore.
I'm steeped in it. All right, tell us about the movie, Travis.
So the movie I chose for you is Get Out, which is Jordan Peele's premiere film. The interesting thing about Jordan Peele is he comes from comedy. He comes from sketch comedy. I think he was on Mad TV for a while, or at least I'm not sure if he was, because that is where Keegan-Michael Key was. But the two of them did P and Keel, Jordan Michael Key
and Peele. Yep.
Oh my God!
Did you just say P and Keel? I think you did.
I did.
That's
My brain
fantastic.
is a little bit messed up, I guess. Key and Peele, which is one of my favorite sketch comedy shows of all time. It was one of the first ones to do no audience, single cam sketch comedy. So they would go out and they would film, sometimes quite intricately, these sketches. And they're very well known for that. And then Jordan went and did a horror movie with Blumhouse, which was an interesting thing. And I guess I don't want to spoil anything, or if
It's 5 years
we
old. We can
worry?
spoil it.
Let's put a spoiler alert, I suppose, right here. We might
There
get
is
into
a
some spoilery
spoiler
territory.
alert here.
If you've not seen Get Out, get out.
skip to the end. To the end.
But so Get Out was, I thought, brilliant, and it was a really interesting commentary on race in America, and it also it kind of combined the Stepford Wives with a black thriller, and a mostly African American, main cast, I suppose, but or maybe not even just the main couple of guys. And the whole point was that he was in
I would say
world.
Overall, the cast is basically, I think, 50-50 in terms of main characters.
But some brilliant actors. Like, I'll watch Bradley Whitford do just about anything, and he was kind of my connecting character to this movie. When I went in, he's like, "Oh, okay, I see Bradley Whitford in this movie. I can kind of trust that." I loved it. What did you think?
I also loved it. So I've heard a lot of good things about it. I knew about it. I knew the basic premise that a white woman brings her black boyfriend home for the weekend and bad stuff happens. But I thought it was really, really fantastic. It's extremely well put together. It's unbelievable that this is his debut.
Right.
He is both writer and director of this, right?
Yeah.
And he, now obviously he'd been around the industry for 15 years ish, writing on Mad TV, writing for Key and Peele, or P and Keel as it's sometimes known. And, so obviously he had chops, but this is a really, really, it's not just a thriller. It absolutely works on a surface level just as a thriller, but it is an amazing commentary on race relations in the United States in the early 21st century. Mm-hmm. That is the century we're in, right? 21st? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That would have been
unless
really
people
awkward.
Are listening to this from the far future.
Well, we're still here in the 21st century, even if they are in the far future. So I think
we are.
Okay.
Damn it.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff. The thing that I want to point out is how, what a delicately balanced role Allison Williams' character has.
Yeah, as the girlfriend.
She's the girlfriend, and she is fully committed to I'm the girlfriend. I'm completely not involved with all the shady stuff that's going on at my parents' house. I didn't even know this weird event was happening. To the point where even after he's discovered that she's being duplicitous and she's pretty sure that he knows, she's still committed to it in a way that makes you as the viewer go, wait a minute, is this all just a misunderstanding? Oh, nope, it's not a misunderstanding. And that transformation, when we find out that it's not a misunderstanding, is really well acted. She doesn't have a lot to do after the turn, right? Which I think is a bit of a miss. I saw her in Girls. I watched the entirety of Girls, and I thought she was really good in that. And, I really, really liked the way her character was written and the way it was acted out. The whole thing is just a really, really good metaphor for sort of the deep psychological trauma inflicted on black people in the United States. This is a win for me.
Yeah, I was looking at my rating for it, and I had rated it a 9 on IMDb, and I don't know why I didn't rate it a 10. There might have been slightly nitpicky things. A 9's a pretty good rating. It's like, this is a movie I will watch again repeatedly over time, and it totally holds up. What's interesting to me is that going forward, I have not liked his follow-up movies as much, and I wonder if that's a matter of this movie, Get Out, probably got worked on and massaged for years while he was trying to get it made. And then after it was such a big hit, everybody wanted the follow-ups so quick that he didn't have a whole lot of time to really make Us and Nope as
well, I got to admit,
movies.
yeah, I think you're out on the edge of opinion when it comes to that, because everything again, I hadn't seen any of these movies. I've still only seen Get Out, but the critical opinion of certainly of Nope is, I think, very, very high. I'm not really sure about Us. I know some people liked it.
Nope is not universally loved in my circles, at least. So it's good, and I think if I were to rank, and this is not necessarily a show about his three movies, but if I were to rank Nope, it would be between Get Out and Us.
Yeah,
Us was my least favorite, mainly because it had what I considered very serious, like, world building logic problems.
Oh, okay.
And
you mean
I have
like
a hard
Highlander?
Time. Even worse than that. Even worse than that, because Highlander is one of those things where we don't get an answer for it, but the answer could be there, right? This one seems to be like it's set in our world, but there are impossibilities that they're just telling us to take for granted. It's different. Especially Highlander is essentially a magic movie. You know, it's about,
How does that happen? Magic.
Magic, exactly. So, yeah. What did you? I mean, I don't know if I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about. I mean, Get Out is just. I guess we can talk about the.
I mean, I can talk about how much I love it. Like one of the things that I love about it is the pacing and how well put together it is. You know, we meet the character who's going to save him, and I'm afraid I can't remember anybody's name. Daniel, is that the main actor's name?
Well, yeah, Daniel Kaluuya was the main actor.
Yeah. So the guy, his TSA friend who's going to save him at the end, that doesn't come out of nowhere. All the groundwork for that is laid properly. Mm-hmm. It all makes sense, right? Because like one of the things that's really irritating about certain slasher or horror flicks is like the killer is like this amazing, efficient killing machine for like 98 victims, right? But that last victim, all of a sudden he can't, the person's 12 feet away and he can't manage to kill him, right? And this doesn't have that problem. Everything is well set up. Everything, the seeds are planted, they're watered, and they grow. And it's really it's honestly just a joy to watch this movie. And like, you can like sit back and enjoy it, or you can like pick it apart and all the pieces, like, there's no like extra screws left over at the end or anything, right? It's all there.
You're right. It does assemble very well, and it holds up to, it stands up to scrutiny, which is one of the things I love. If you can look back on a movie and really enjoy, there's moments, and some of the acting is extraordinary. I love Catherine Keener is the mom, and she's so like lovely and then creepy and like menacing. She has this power of she's a hypnotherapist, and she has this power to send the main character into a hypnotic trance, and the way they represent it is also very cool, where he literally will sink into the floor or the chair or the bed that he's laying or whatever he's in, and he'll sink down into the darkness. And it's such a interesting visual, and you as a viewer feel trapped,
right?
And him as a character, like the acting required to pour your emotion and you can't move, and so all that can come out is tears, and it's just a really powerful like moment, right? A couple of those moments.
Here's something I latched onto is like there's this moment where he's like, why us? Why black people? And they start talking about like the, impressive physical specimens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And wow, what a creepily accurate, gross thing, right? Like this, because there is this like strain of like insecure white fragility that's like afraid that like the black people are gonna take over and like every football player is black now, and that it's because their genetics are so strong, right? And when obviously
sure.
there's all sorts of sociocultural reasons why sports is like or that black people are overrepresented in American sports, right?
Yeah.
But that gets boiled down in like the white racist brain to their genetic advantages, right? Which is, gross and
well, the fetishization of black people has been something that's existed
right?
since since slavery.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah.
And I just like how they, but the fact that he addresses that, right, so kind of subtly but perfectly, right? There's the one woman who clearly is using this young black body as a sex slave, right?
Yeah.
Except it's her husband's brain controlling the body. Like,
right, yeah.
Like, ew, right? Ew, gross, but also really good point. Really, you know, like you just
well, and not far from the reality in some ways. And I think that what's interesting is that Jordan Peele, as a black man writing and directing this, it could have felt less accessible. It could have felt like a movie for black audiences, to be like, hey, fellow black people, white people are evil,
right.
But it wasn't. It was. It is so accessible as a enjoyable movie, but also one that got us to be able to talk about this issue.
Hey, white people are evil, which is a totally different sentence, but it's really it's an important one. So I really really dug it. So
yeah. Is there anything else other than the? It's interesting. I was watching the. Behind the scenes, and one thing that I will also applaud is their decision to edit this the way originally the ending was not kind of the feel good ending that it had. Originally, the ending was the police show up, and I think
they recapture
either
him
arrest him or maybe shoot him.
Okay.
But like it's a dark ending. And they ended up changing it so that, in the end, the hero wins, which is, I think, what we all want to see as... It's definitely what I want to see as a film goer. I didn't want to see him go through all of this and then still, at the end, like, succumb to the reality of our modern police culture. But... I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they changed it. I'm glad it does take a certain intelligence. And I think, oh man, Jordan is, if anything, he is a really brilliant storyteller.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of that comes from sketch. Like to be able to, sketch comedy trains you to be able to tell a tight story in 5 minutes. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that he has that training, and he just took that and extrapolated it.
Sometimes we call that the beam end.
The beam end?
Yes, the beginning, the middle, and the end. The beam end.
Oh,
saves us time.
Interesting. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, so did you rate this already?
I have not rated it.
You know what? I had given it a 9. I'll stick by that.
Your 9 has inspired me to give this a 10.
Whoa!
Yeah, because you know what?
Movie.
I'm sick of rating systems that are like bullshit, right? Like you have 1 to 10 and everything's a 6, a 7, or an 8, right? Screw it. I'm going to use the damn ratings. And I loved this movie. I didn't have any problems with it. And I don't see a ton of movies, and I'm glad I watched this one, so I'm gonna give it a
All
10.
right. All right. Fantastic. Thanks. Well, that's great. Well, let's move on to. We don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's move on to our next week's assignments.
Yeah. Do you have an assignment for me?
Not yet.
He's okay. All right. So I have put up another playlist. So this one, I got to admit, half an hour before our conversation, I had not chosen anything, and so I kind of panicked. And I was like, "Well, I listened to this album today, and I really liked it. It's the 2010 album Odd Blood by the band Yeasayer. So Yeasayer is sort of I would say, a pop band that uses a fair amount of like kind of weird sounds in their thing. But I just really, there's a song on here, I think it's track 2, called Ambling Alp, that was the single off of it. And I got to admit, I latched onto this song, and I must have played it dozens of times the first couple of weeks after first hearing it. Really good song. And then that was sort of an entree.
This is a song that this has been with you for 10 plus years.
Yeah, this is
okay.
This is an album that I really love.
Well,
and I was like,
you had just said that you just listened to it, and I just wasn't sure if that
yes.
meant
Yep.
you just discovered it,
no,
or you were just revisiting it.
I didn't just discover it. I was revisiting it. Yeah, so periodically I will go through all of my physical media that I own. So I listened to my whole record collection over the course of the last 2 months. And
really?
Wow. And Yeasayer is obviously right at the end because it's Y. And,
you're alphabetical. That's great. I love that.
I actually, of course I am. So I finished it today. And yeah, I love that album, and so that's what it is. They're weird. I'm trying to give you some prompts for your movie, but maybe you'll just choose independently. Yeah, I like them. I would maybe listen to the song Ambling Alp a couple of times and then dive into the album. But good stuff.
So. Weird is how you would describe it. Anything else that
weird or psychedelic?
Weird or psychedelic. That's interesting. Yeah. The only thing I can think of, I'm looking at my best rated movies on IMDb, and I'm not great at rating everything that I ever watch, so it's not a complete rating. But I kind of want to go back a little bit and do a little history. You, of course, have seen. We've talked about. We talked last week, I think, about Christopher Nolan and his movies, right? Memento and those kind of things. Okay, and you didn't like
The Prestige.
The Prestige. Okay, great. That's fine. Have you seen? Let's go a little bit further back. I also mentioned at some point that there's a Steven Spielberg movie that most people have missed. Have you ever seen Empire of the Sun? That was Christian Bale's first movie when he was 14.
I will remind you. Apparently, you haven't listened back to our podcast.
I listen to only podcasts. That's the problem. So I listen to Marketplace and whatever, and Science Friday, and all this other stuff gets mixed in with our podcast.
Yes. No, I have not seen Empire in the Sun.
Okay.
Empire in the Sun or Empire of the Sun? Of the Sun.
And I think that's what I'm going to assign you this week. It's a 1987 Spielberg movie. It has a lot going for it. It's got Christian Bale in his first movie.
Before Newsies?
Before Newsies. This is the movie that brought him to enough fame that he could do Newsies. And then it's also got John Malkovich, Miranda
I got to
Richardson.
admit, I was just showing off the fact that I knew that Christian Bale was in Newsies because that's a pretty random
you know what's
fact.
funny is I've never seen Newsies. And
you haven't?
Your
assignment
one of my
for this week is to
ex-Matthews
watch
favorites,
Newsies.
and I've never seen it. So
wow. Apparently, we know who got to choose the DVD for the night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when you look at this, you'll see a lot of familiar Spielberg isms where he's got the score by John Williams, and I'm pretty sure his cinematographer was not the guy he does everything with, but it's a guy by the name of Alan Daviow, and it's very interestingly shot. And yeah, so the movie is about, for just a little bit of context, so you're not jumping in bold or cold. It is the jumping in bold. What is that?
It's like P and Keel.
Every once in a while, I get these little breaks. I'll tell you something when we're off, but that's not relevant.
It's private information.
It's not. But I get migraine headaches every so often, and one of the precursors I get for them sometimes is this speech aphasia, where the words that I'm thinking, I cannot get them to come out of my mouth. Simple words, even like communicate or whatever. But this is not that. This is just my brain being weird because I'm getting older. But I
occasionally have speech aphasia as well, and what I've found is really helpful is using a descriptor that isn't the correct word. My most famous of which is referring to the refrigerator as the food library.
Oh, you know what? We've talked about this a while back. I remember you telling me that. I have not been able to think of any way to get around it other than just lay down for, half an hour and just not say words. But in any case, Empire of the Sun it's about the Japanese invasion of, I believe, Singapore, and which was a British colony. And so... Yeah, and so Christian Bale plays a young British boy who is in school there. He plays Jim, and he has grown up in this British colony, and when the Japanese take over during the World War II. And it goes from there, and it's a very interesting tale. So
sounds like a rollicking good time.
It's not a happy movie, but it's also a Spielberg movie, so
okay.
Take what you will from there.
Awesome. Well, that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you think about it.
Yeah.
That almost sounded like the aliens from Galaxy Quest. Have you ever seen you've seen Galaxy Quest, right?
Yes, I have.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm glad where the aliens all talk like the "You are our last hope." Yeah,
fantastic.
I love Galaxy Quest so much. If you had not seen it, it would be our movie assignment every week.
It would be our assignment every week until you've seen it.
This would be the Galaxy Quest podcast, brought to you by Galaxy Quest. It's so good. It's so good. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining me for another week, and I will talk to you next week.
Yeah, thanks for exposing yourself to me.
Oh, thank you for exposing yourself to me, Matt.
All right. Good night, Travis.
Right. Good night. Talk to you next week. Bye.